Goodly. Well, Jake, right front right here, other way, other side.
Hey, how's it going?
First of all, congratulations on the win. Back in the win column, I guess. What are the emotions after a violent finish like that here in Utah?
Yeah, just relief to be able to get back in and get in the win column. Not relief because we didn't think we would win. We went in very confident, but relief because I suffered an injury in May, didn't get to fight. It's just long layoff after long layoff, and we're trying to stay as active as we can, but just, opponents pulling out, getting injured, opponents getting COVID the morning of the fight. You know what I mean? It hasn't been the best run, but hopefully now we've got the ball rolling, and now we can start getting more consistent.
Was there fear of not fighting on this card?
Yeah, even my cornerman didn't really know, but it's a big emotional roller coaster because we're away from the family for 2 weeks, or more. All the work we've put in, and we're in the city we're going to fight in without an opponent.
Yeah.
And being America, I was pretty confident they'd get us someone. Anywhere else around the world, I probably wouldn't have ended up fighting.
Sure.
And I don't know what the go is there. Such a long layoff. We do want to make sure that we're getting in and fighting as frequently as we can. For many reasons, just to keep the ring rust off, support the families back home. Got coaches to pay, so it was a big relief when Darrius stepped up.
Mentally, what was it like? Like you said, you're in camp, but you don't have an opponent, so you don't really know what to prepare for. You don't know when to go all out or kind of dial back. So mentally, what was going on in camp without an opponent here? We just focused on acclimating. We just focused on that, enjoying the city, getting out, seeing some sights, getting used to the altitude. My second cornerman that was on the way, he's like, "Do I get on the plane or not?" We don't know. And then it's like the night before he was leaving, we got the opponent. So and then it was just a big rush. Watch all these fights, and just for anyone who's not sure, I believe it's harder for the fighter who was already going to fight than the person who stepped up last minute, because we have to completely change good habits that we've made in 7 or 8 weeks of training. Whereas I'd love it if they called me up and said fight in a week. I would absolutely love that. Nothing to lose. Go in first round, try and swing and take the head off, which is what Darrius did. And we just had to weather the early storm, wait for him to wear out and get the finish. So we implemented that pretty well. Well, kind of going off of that, how did the fight play out in terms of your expectations against Darrius?
Yeah, he come out a little different than we thought. So usually he's very forward and backward in terms of explosiveness. So he'd explode, and then I'll take the center of the ring again. He'd explode, I'll take the center of the ring. But he just kept that constant forward pressure, which threw me off initially. And I was like, okay, it's going to be high volume trading in the pocket here. And then he was very calm. It wasn't the kind of wasn't what you'd expect from someone who's in their first fight. He was very composed actually, which sort of threw me for the first couple of minutes. He wasn't throwing his head wild like he usually does. He was actually quite composed, which is the opposite. Normally they're composed before the UFC and they lose their shit in the UFC, but he did very well. Props to him.
What did you think of that fake out he did, where it looked like he was rocked, and when he ran in, he kind of snapped up and pointed and laughed at you? Yeah,
I'm always cautious when I think I've got someone hurt. So that played in my favour at that time. But it's part of the game. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's legal. He can do it if he wants.
Did you think it was a low blow?
I started second guessing myself, and then the crowd started booing. I was like, man, I love Salt Lake. I don't want the fans here to hate me, but I don't think they were booing me at the end of the day. I was told that it was low, but then people that were watching from the outside, they said no, it was on the belt of the shorts, which is not necessarily low, but who knows? He's a martial artist. I like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Believe that we're all honest people. Maybe it caught his shorts, maybe it pulled his cup up. So if it was low, I do apologise, and I'll just keep it more consistent next time.
And in terms of your career, I know you said you want to stay active. Is the goal to be on that Sydney card? I would assume you want to fight in Australia.
Look, we haven't sat. I mean, in my mind, it was this fight and then potentially Abu Dhabi.
Oh yeah.
It's the only reason is I love Australia. I think I've watched one UFC live in my life.
Oh. Wow.
So it'd actually be good to go and relax and watch one. And being in Sydney would be a great one to go to. But the reason is there's so many Aussie UFC fighters now, and the first half of a decade of my career was pretty much all on Australian cards. And it comes to mind when Sean Shelby said, if you want big fights, big opponents, you have to go overseas eventually. You can keep fighting in Australia, but we're not going to be able to get these ranked guys to you. You got to go to them. So that always stuck in the back of my mind. So that's why when I say I'm not fussed if I fight in Australia or not, that's the reason why. Sure. And I wouldn't have missed this event for the world. BMF title, huge fight, huge card. All finishes so far. I think it was like sub knockout. It's just such a good card to be a part of.
Is there any names you want in Abu Dhabi?
Kevin Holland called me out at weigh-in. Like, we're fighting in. Like,
What did he say?
I called him out a long time ago because I was trying to get. I think it was when my opponent pulled out and I was in Vegas, and I was calling everyone out. Ponzinibbio blocked me on Instagram, by the way, because Kevin Holland, everyone. And then he goes, "Jake, did you call me out?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "We're fighting in 2 weeks." I'm like, "Relax, man. Like, we'll fight, but we'll see, let's win these fights first." So if he did mean that, then we could tear that up. That'd be a fun fight. I've wanted that for a long time.
And then last one for me, unrelated to the fight. Is that the brand of sacrifice tattooed behind your ear?
So this is it's a wolf symbol. So it's an old Celtic warrior symbol. Just so happens that it's from an anime, and it's on the exact same spot in the anime. So now I'm like contemplating getting it taken off, to be honest, because all I get asked is if I'm an anime fan. I've never watched an anime in my life, to be honest. I might have to watch it.
He's a big anime fan. That's why.
Yeah. Is it Berserk?
Yeah, I have that on my shit.
Oh, you do? Okay, yeah.
So now you got to keep it.
I'll have to keep it. I'll keep it.
Well, speaking of the potential low kick, I think when you go back and you watch, you'll even hear Rogan say the ball of your foot actually hit him in the abdomen, so it looked like the most damage was going in that, and then maybe your heel kind of then dug into it as you followed through it. So I think you'll be fine with it once you see it. But what I thought was interesting is after that, you immediately threw it first. That was like the first strike you did back. Is that partially to just kind of clear that and not become afraid of using that weapon because it was potentially a low blow, or was that just a big part of the game plan that you were hoping to use?
It was part of the game plan, which we're at the back warming up. My coach goes, "Man, your teeps are very good. Like, you should use them." So I was like, "Oh, I'll use them." And then that's what sort of zapped him, I think, more than anything. So it was just that one that was a bit lower. I did it off a switch stance. The rest of them were off the lead foot. So I just went back to throwing him off the lead foot. And it was just purely based on the fact that I knew it was zapping his energy, so I wanted to keep throwing him. And then I saw his hand started dropping to cover it after that. So I was like, okay, there's some openings there. And then he shot.
And there's a couple of times where you guys definitely either just decided to stand right in front of each other and just kind of throw bombs. Do you welcome those sort of exchanges just to kind of test the chin and see who's got the better one? Or did it sort of surprise you that he was willing to kind of just stand in there and just start throwing like that?
No, we knew he was going to come out first round. Like I said, these guys have nothing to lose. I always said, I wish the UFC would message me and be like, "Hey, outside in the parking lot right now." That would be my ideal UFC fight because no time to think about it. Go in and just fight. So I sort of envy that as opposed to having 8 weeks to just sit and dwell on an opponent and then you don't even end up fighting that opponent. You've got to quickly switch to another opponent. So, but yeah, it was there's a lot of just re-strategizing pretty much. And he, like I said before, he come out completely different to what we thought. He was a lot more composed and a lot more just steady. So I was ready for those exchanges, but my coach isn't too happy. But I love getting drawn into those exchanges. It's just like the unknowing. I love the unknowing. And when you get into those exchanges, it's like you're going to hit me or I'm going to hit you. One of us is going to go out. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. And we often hear fighters when they have like short notice fights, a lot of times some guys, they don't pay attention really to so much a game plan specifically for an opponent. They always just kind of work on what bits of their fight game they need to work at. But it sounds like you're the type that you guys did want to look at, film. You wanted to see what sort of stuff. And did you alter the game plan according to what you thought he would bring out there?
Yeah, we did. Initially, we wanted to start the fight the same as the last opponent, but then obviously the last opponent wasn't gonna shoot. Probably likely not to shoot it at all, and he wasn't going to stand and trade, and not as good off the back foot. Whereas Darrius didn't really give me the forward pressure at all. He sort of kept me moving backwards. So yeah, there was some retweaking there, and completely different. The last guy was 6'2", 6'3". Darrius is a lot shorter, a lot smaller. He's likely to shoot as well. So it was a complete 180 from the opponent that we did have. So it was just a big scramble, and to be honest, like you said, sometimes going into a fight and just focusing on what you're good at is the better option. So we have a balance. We don't like to look at opponents too much because it's mentally draining, but you do need to know their strengths and weaknesses, and you do need to know where you can take advantage of your strengths.
And last thing for me, when you got the choke on him, it almost looked like he was ready to tap before you ever secured it in. Could you feel that he was sort of waning in those moments? I think the commentary team said that you beat him into submission because he was willing to tap before you ever secured it. Could you notice that at the very end?
Yeah, look, when we hit the ground, I thought I was going to get the TKO initially, and then I learned this from he's no longer in the UFC, but Zuba Tukugov. So he actually came out to Melbourne. We trained with him, And he implanted that in my head. He said, don't rush, don't force submission. He said, let them give it to you. Because then you know that's you're going to get 100%. You know, if you jump on something and rush, you're likely to fall off or they're likely to defend. If they give their back and they're willing to tap, that's when you've got it. And there's no better feeling. You know, you can get a quick sub or a quick knockout. There's no better feeling than making someone quit and break them down. It's a bit sadistic, I guess, but I like breaking people down over time like that. We always say, you know, use the scalpel first, and then hit him with the hammer later. Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions?
Was it just Zubair you trained with, or was there any other Dagestanis that you trained with?
It was just Zubo at that time that came out to Melbourne. Yeah, I think it was after the Perth card. They all went off elsewhere, and he came down and met us.
One more right over here.
Yep.
5 of your 8 submission wins are by rear naked choke. Would you say that is your favorite submission?
It's probably just the most common one that we end up in. You don't really see many subs off your back. I think in my early fights, it was all triangle chokes. Yeah, that was one of my main subs. But, you know, everyone's good on the ground now. You don't want to be playing off your back against anyone. It's a really hard game to try and play guard. So yeah, I mean, there's if you trap an arm or trap their legs, which I sort of sat back on Darrius's legs, if you hit them, there's only really one way they can turn, and that's to give their back up. So that's why it's such a very common submission. And due to that, we work it so much because it's a very common position to end up in.
Kevin's pretty good in his guard.
Sorry?
Kevin Holland's pretty good in his guard.
He's, yeah, I might have to test it out. Thank you. Well done. Thanks, guys.